And good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Yes, it is story time this morning. And before I forget, because I do keep forgetting, it is, excuse me, the fan is catching in my throat here. It is July the 11th, or the 11th of July, whatever, however you want to say it.
June.
Oh, well, yeah. Oops. It is June the 11th. That's right. We're into June. We're into Pride Month. That's right. Sorry. I do beg your pardon, everybody. All right. It is June the 11th, Saturday morning. And it is story time. So before we go any further, of course, before I say anything else, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Gregor. We've just been having a little chat earlier on. But anyway, for the benefit of everybody here, good morning to Grey Eagle, who is, as always, standing to my right side. And Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. You
And,
seem so close.
pardon?
You seem so close.
I do. How close could we get, Chris?
Enough
Yeah,
not to create an echo.
we have, we have a little announcement here. uh, my friend Chris, who usually does story time from Vermont, is in Florida. Da, 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 da. And she is in another room in my house. So we've had to close doors so there's no echoes. And we've had to, do all sorts of things to stop the echoes. But Chris is here. Staying with me for a while in Florida. How nice is that? So, Chris, good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary.
Now,
Swimming in your pool this morning was just great.
I was going to ask, and how are you enjoying Florida? You've only been here a couple of days, but how are you enjoying it so far?
So far, so good.
You've been swimming every day. Let's see, what day did you come? You came on
Wednesday evening.
Wednesday evening. So, for those of you who didn't know, she was here on Thursday morning. We didn't say too much about Thursday because, well, she was tired and driving, and it took you weeks to get here, didn't it? Quite But she stopped on the way and visited her son and visited all sorts of different people on her way down here, and here she is. And so I just managed, for anybody listening, I just managed to get rid of my friend Karen, and here's Chris. I mean, am I a glutton for punishment or what? You know, there's this old saying. I never heard this saying until I moved to America. I'm not really sure that we have this saying in England, but in America, what is that saying? Guests are like fish, something. After a few days, they begin to smell, or something. Is that how people put it?
Something like that.
In other words, they're all right for a while, but then no. Well, I I've never thought that. I've always had a house full of people. Um, I've always liked visitors. I don't care how long you stay, as long as as long as you're nice, as long as you do your own dishes. um, I think that it's so much fun having people visiting. It's so much fun having people around, and especially when you have close friends. But I have been known to open my house to total strangers who then become great friends. I don't think I've ever had anyone stay in my house that I didn't really love having staying in my house. Of course, I have to think about it. I might change my mind and just I'm sort of thinking. I had a great couple who stayed in my house. They were fantastic, and they stayed in my house when I went on a trip. I went to where did I go to? I went to China, and they stayed in the house and they took care of the dog, and they were lovely. They left the day before I arrived home, and and I still think they're lovely. But there wasn't a drop of liquor left in the drinks cabinet, and there was quite a lot when I left. there was hardly any food in the cupboards or the freezer. But you know what? My puppy was so happy and so well taken care of, and the house was well taken care of, so it didn't matter to me whatsoever. Um, but anyway, so I also, I mean, it's not about people necessarily coming to stay. It's just about people who come, who frequently come to visit. And I have friends in England, and when I lived in England, we had people who would come to visit frequently. And I had one lovely friend who is still a good friend, who I absolutely adore. She is lovely. But there was an occasion where I found this little saying, um, and I loved it. And it did sort of apply to her, because sometimes friends you can get a little bit too friendly, or take advantage a little bit. Most people don't do it. And this friend of mine didn't realize she was doing it until one day she opened the cupboards, that my cupboards are, and there's a wall cupboard, and she opened the door and printed inside. And I still think, if we pay attention to these things, this is what keeps friendships going. This is what keeps friendships alive, and it applies not just to the host, but to, to all of the people who come into your house, come into your family, especially family. It applies to family very often. So this is the little note that I should, sort of keep it in the inside cupboard. So when you open the cupboard, it says, it is the host's responsibility to make sure the guests feel at home, and it is the guest's responsibility to remember that they are not at home. Don't you like that? Uh, we talked, I think, either last week or the week before, we talked about respect and how important respect is. And I'm very, very fortunate in that I have friends who respect me very well, and I respect them very well. And Chris is one of those people who I think it's fair to say, Chris, isn't it, that we do have a mutual respect.
I would agree.
I have
Although I'm shaking in my boots hearing all this going, oh God, did I do something?"
absolutely not. No, I mean, so far, and even the kitty, who I have to be honest, I was very nervous about uh, Moonlight coming into the house, because he likes to jump and he likes to be on shelves and he likes, cats scratch at things and so on. And I have to be honest, I was a bit nervous about it, but it didn't matter. I thought, we'll deal with it, whatever it is, we'll deal with it. But he has been fantastic, right, Chris?
Yeah, he's settled down now, which is great.
He's settled down. He likes the pool. He likes going around the pool area. He's not really jumping that much up on the shelves and things. He did jump up on the top of the fireplace, but there's nothing there that's interesting to him, and there's nothing that he could knock over, because everything that's up there is way too heavy. So, but we took him down and we told him how naughty he was, what a naughty boy he was. He's fine. He's only been up there a couple of times, and he's fine. So it's
Tell everyone what you built.
well, I didn't. We did, Chris. So Chris had, knowing that she was coming to stay for a little while, uh, sent a cat tower,
Yeah.
cat tower. It's got different levels, different spaces. It's got sort of like a cradle area for the cat to lie in. It's got a little house. It's got all sorts of things, and it's really quite tall. How tall would you say it was, Chris? I'm going to say 5.5 feet.
Yeah, yeah, it's taller than I am, I think.
Right. So let's say 6 feet. Anyway, Chris and I spent Thursday afternoon after the show. Actually, we spent 2 hours putting this thing together. Sort of, it was a little challenging in places. We used a wrong screw in the wrong place, and we had
We had no written directions.
we did, we did great. And if you look on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of those places. I'm sure Chris is going to put some photos up of me leaning against this cat tower. And what an achievement that was. I'm rabbiting on here, blah, 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 blah. All right, moving on. Let's move on. Of course, it is Saturday morning, it's story time. But before I begin to tell my story, we do like to give a few minutes so that people who are a bit late coming in or have forgotten and want to, we do like to give a few minutes before I start my story. But Chris, do we have anyone there?
We have a lot of people here, and a lot of good comments about, let me scroll back to this one, which I thought was quite funny. Um, I think it was from Judith, and she said, "Rosemary, we'll all be down soon. Is your pool heated?"
You don't live in Florida. You don't actually. Uh, it is heated for my darling boy because when he comes, it usually comes in February for his birthday, and he was also here for Easter, and it was a little chilly, so we didn't have to heat it so much in for Easter. But um, you tell us, Chris,
What's the question?
is the pool heated?
I wouldn't know. I mean, you've got what, 89-degree weather down here, so if the pool picks up 89 degrees, then it's
You
just fine.
you really don't need to heat the pool. Of course, it's not, the pool is not 89 degrees hot because it cools off at night time, but it's, I mean, I go in it. So if I go in it, it's not that cold. Trust me, it really is not that cold. And it's great. And Chris has been swimming in it every morning and easing your neck and easing your back and doing all that sort of thing. So I think you've enjoyed it, haven't you, Chris?
Absolutely.
And come on down, anybody, everybody. I invite strangers to my house as long as you're not rude, as long as you are respectful, as long as you are polite. You are certainly, am I going to regret this? You are certainly welcome. As is anybody and everybody. I might say to you, you need to go to a motel, but you're certainly welcome to come. Anyway, moving on with our story time. So, before I begin story time, let me tell you that Chris and I watched one of the best movies I think ever. Of course, Kevin Costner is amazing, and I've forgotten his name. The Earl Jones. What's his name? Um, what's his first name?
Oh, now I'm
And
gonna forget it.
it doesn't matter, but he was in it as well. And I was telling Chris how I had dinner. I went to a sort of a
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, and I was invited to a dinner where he and his wife were, and we had, you know, after dinner we just the three of us sat huddled together talking about all sorts of things. Anyway, and it's great when you see a movie, you say, "Oh, I know Kim," or I've seen that," you know, and people think it's funny when I tell them about my experience with John Travolta, who I have to tell you is huge. Not that way, but that way. You sort of, I have to sort of, and I'm not short. I'm 5'6" or something, and I had to sort of gaze up at him, But anyway, enough of celebrities and so on. We watched this movie with James Earl Jones and with Kevin Costner and with a whole bunch of other people, and Ray Liotta, who I love, who unfortunately now has passed very recently. We know he's doing okay. Anyway, some of you may have guessed by now what this movie is, because what a mix of people. We've got James Earl Jones, we've got Ray Liotta, we've got Kevin Costner. Oh, Kevin Costner. Anyway, good old Kev. Anyway, and we watched Field of Dreams. And some of you will say, well, what's that movie about? And some of you will know exactly what that movie is about. But it's about someone who is told, he hears a voice saying, if you build it, they will come. And it's a baseball field that he builds. And they do come. They come out of the cornfields. Who are they, by the way? they are old baseball players who've been long since dead and gone, as you would say. They are, people who come out of the cornfield to play baseball. Now, this baseball field is an actual baseball field, right, Chris?
It
Do you want to say
is.
anything about that very quickly before I start my story?
No, you go right ahead.
Okay, well, it's still there. It's in Iowa, and you might be interested, some of you, in knowing that Chris and I are planning. We're not quite sure how long it's going to take in the planning stage. We are planning to go to Iowa and to go to this baseball field, and we're going to be stopping at different places on the way, ghost hunting. Yes, we're going on a ghost hunting road trip, people. You might want to follow along with us. You might want to come along with us. You might want to meet us. If you live in Iowa or anywhere close, you might want to come to the field with us. If you're listening and you've been there yourself, we'd love to hear about it. If you know of it, or you know anything about it that you think we should know, we're planning on, having this amazing road trip, which we're going to be posting about once we've organized it. It could take us a while. We don't know, do we, Chris? But anyway, that is our plan. So, we were talking about how all of these baseball players come in the movie. They come out of the cornfield and they play baseball and so on and so forth, and then they go back into the cornfield and then they come out the next day to play baseball again and so on. And it reminded me of the story I'm going to tell you now. Now, there are several parts to this story, so I've decided to only tell you a little part of it. Can that happen? So, once upon a time, as all good stories, as you know, must begin. In Colorado, I experienced not baseball players coming out of the cornfield, but I experienced, let me set the scene. I was standing on the stage. Somebody had organized this event. There were a lot of people at this event. It was held in a large hall, and I began giving messages. One particular message, I began to give this message to Daniel. Daniel was at that time around 10 years old, and the message was from his brother. I'll tell you the rest of that story in another story time. But here is Daniel. He's sitting by himself as far as I could see, or, his parents were sitting elsewhere. So Daniel stood up. I said to him on the stage, and I said, are you Daniel? And he said, yes. I said, can you stand up? It was just a little thing. I said, Daniel, would you understand that I've got your brother here in the spirit world? And he's saying, I want to talk to Daniel. And he sort of had a few tears and he nodded, but he was very excited. And I never ever give messages to children unless I check with their parents first. So I asked, are your parents in the audience? And this couple stood up and they said, we're here. And they were sitting further back to the one side of the room. And I said, do I have your permission to give a message to your son Daniel? And they nodded yes. So I brought Daniel up on stage, and his brother in the spirit world, one of the first things he said to me, his name is David, he said to me, hey, he said, tell Daniel, he's wearing my baseball cap. That's what reminded me. And he's wearing my cap. That's my cap he's wearing. And I said to Daniel, so I understand you're wearing your brother's cap. And he laughed and he said, yes. And we went from there. And I gave Daniel some amazing messages from his brother. Later, I talked with Daniel and his parents. We all had dinner together, actually. I don't know how they managed that, but they did. They were a lovely couple. And it's sort of set the tone. Let's say it set the tone for the evening. And I went from uh, giving Daniel a message to giving messages to other people in the audience. And the messages, as they usually are, because Greg, oh, he's good, he's good. He gives, we give sort of really detailed and let's say sometimes intricate messages. And people in the audience were, nodding, and a lot of people knew other people. A lot of people knew Daniel and Daniel's story. So they were, even if they weren't getting messages themselves, they were relating to the messages that were being given. And there was something special going on that night. I'm not quite sure what it was that made it special. I'm not quite sure what made this happen. It wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last time, but this time was sort of, let's say, more intense, or there was more. It was more of. And when Chris and I were watching the movie yesterday, Chris said to me, can that really happen? And I knew that Mike, Chris's husband, was watching the movie with us, and Mike said, he said, hey, this is real. It's real. And I said to Chris, Mike says it's real, so I'm going with this. Yes, it does happen. But it reminded me of this wonderful experience in Colorado. As I'm giving messages, I look up at one point and I see an angel. I mean, a full blown. I don't mean, what do I mean? Sort of the white robes and all that stuff. When you see an angel, because they glow. They have this amazing aura, this incredible, beautiful, clear, it's not almost white, it's sort of not quite golden, it's almost this white, incredible energy and they glow. It's sort of, it's almost like a fluorescent thing going on. And I looked up and I see this glow, and then I see the angel quite clearly standing at the back of the room. And I've, sort of, I don't say anything to anyone because, I see lots of things when we're doing this stuff, and I don't always tell people what I'm seeing because sometimes it's too much. So I see this angel, and I sort of carry on giving the message, and I look up, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and very much like watching the baseball players coming out of the corn. First there's one, and then there's another one, and then there's another. Then there's a whole team, and then there's two teams playing, and they're sort of coming out of the cornfield, and very much like that. Coming out of the walls, or coming through the walls, or however you want to say it, there were angels. And pretty soon the entire hall, it was a huge hall, pretty soon the entire hall, standing all around the back and down the sides of the room, were so many angels, and the whole room was filled with this sort of pulsing white, incredible, beautiful light, through which I could quite clearly see all of these angels, showing us that, that when none of us is alone, and showing Daniel and showing Daniel's parents that when David passed, his angels were right there with him. There was a time when I was, and some of you will think, what is she talking about here? But sometimes, you watch these shows, you've got to take it on trust. Dissect it later. Have your doubts and your questions and your queries later. Go with me on this, because it is. I know it sounds weird, but when I was in the concentration camps and I was in the ovens, and I was there in the concentration camp, and I was watching all of these men filing in to the ovens, and into one of the ovens. And when you think about ovens, we're not talking about the bread baking can. We're talking about these sort of, I guess, I don't know what shape they were, but you can stand in them. And I was in the ovens with all of these people, uh, and they were being packed like sardines in a can, literally nose to nose, and nose to the back of the head, sort of crunched up. As many as they could get in there. And they were all standing up, and they were, sort of terrified. They knew something was going to happen. So, and I'm standing there as an observer. I'm in the ovens and I'm watching these people, and I can hear people crying. I can hear people praying. And there were two brothers, and one of the reasons that I was experiencing this particular thing was there were two brothers who were in there together, and they were facing each other, but they were so crowded in, but they were holding hands with each other. And everyone there, every single man in those ovens knew that this was it. This was the end of it. And as I say, I'm standing there as a watcher. And those of you who read my books, you'll know. This will often happen with me, and I'll stand and I'm like the observer, and I'm watching. What does this have to do with angels? What does this have to do with baseball players? Because as I'm watching, and the despair, and people are frightened, and they know they're going to die, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they're squashed together like this, so inhumane. But as I'm watching, and this whole place is black, dark, you can barely see anything in the place. But as I'm watching, as the watcher, as the observer, all of a sudden it starts to get a little bit lighter. And instead of being black, it's grey. And then it gets lighter and brighter. And as I'm watching, the entire, let's say, oven, we'll call it, the whole place is filled with the most brilliant, bright light. And through the light, I'm seeing angels, very much like coming out of the cornfield. Where are they coming from? Where have they come from? Where do they then go to? Well, when you're watching it and when you're experiencing it, you're not saying to yourself, where have they come from? You're saying, wow, wow, look at this. And the tears, as I watched, the tears were streaming down my face as I watched people being lifted, literally lifted and taken by their angels. And the light and the incredible brightness, and a feeling of, instead of the feeling of such despair and such loss of hope, was suddenly turned around. There was joy and there was hope as I watched these amazing angels as they came and lifted and carried and took these souls to wherever, I guess heaven, let's call it heaven for want of a better word. How often does that happen? Well, you've heard me tell the story of the circus, and when I went into the old circus where it was a derelict circus, and I went there and I sat with a small group of people. My friend Mary Lou came with me, and I'm sitting there, and just like the baseball players coming out of the cornfield, just like that, I'm sitting there, and I start to hear movement, and I hear sort of like the feet sliding on the floors. It was an old concrete floor, and before I know it, these fantastic circus people who had been there and worked with the circus and lived with the circus, but who had since passed, they're coming, let's say they're coming from the cornfield, not a cornfield obviously, but they're coming from wherever it is they're coming from, and they're drawing close. They're coming as a crowd, and they're coming and wanting to talk about their experiences, wanting to talk about the circus acts, wanting to talk about, you know, what it was like living with the circus and all of these people coming from, I don't know, wherever they were coming from. And as I watched this movie yesterday, and I'm looking at these baseball players, and they're emerging from the cornfields, and I'm thinking that's exactly how it is when you see angels, when you see groups of people. When I was at the circus and watched all these people all coming together in a group together to talk about the circus and the circus days and the circus time, and it was amazing because two of the people who had come with me to experience this knew a lot of those people because they'd worked in the circus as well, and they were around as boys when you know, and knew many of the you'd call them ghosts, wouldn't you? I'd just say people, from many of the people who were coming from the spirit world, just joining in and having this great get together to not to play baseball but to play let's talk circus. And then of course, can animals do this? Well, you know, I remember telling you, I think it was a few months ago, when it was Reese's birthday, or there was something going on, and somebody's birthday, and I'm sitting in New York with my grandson and my daughter, and we're talking. And Reese, it might have been Christmas time. Reese had made little parcels, little packages for my puppy Cachorro, who passed a year last Christmas, and his puppy Piper, and he'd made little presents for them so that if they came, they could have little gifts for Christmas. And he'd made these little packages, and we were opening them. We were talking about it, and then there's Cachorro, and then wait a minute, then there's Piper, and then there's Karma, and then there's Rosie, and then there's Nino, and then there's, and believe it or not, uh, Atlas and Minter, who had passed when Samantha was a baby. Uh, my wonderful, wonderful dogs, and it's like, where are they coming from? Are they coming from the cornfield? Are they coming from the outfield? Where are they coming from? But they were all coming and gathering together. Can it happen? Is it real? And I watched this movie last night, and I'm hearing Mike say, it's real. Yes, it's real. This is real, Chris. And I realized as I was watching the movie and listening to Mike saying it's real, how many, many, many times over the years, more times than I can count, where we've had crowds of people coming from the spirit world, and I mean crowds, uh, all coming for one purpose. That purpose might be to say happy birthday or happy Christmas. That purpose might be to talk about the circus. That purpose might be that our angels are here, just saying to us, you know, this is real. This is real. And so Chris and I, we've decided we got to look at this baseball field now. Maybe there'll be something there. Maybe there will not be something there. It is supposed to be a true story. Hey, I'm going with Mike. It's real. It is real that I see people in the spirit world. It is real that sometimes I see them in crowds. It is real that sometimes, you know, especially when people pass in certain circumstances, when I did a few things in New York for the Twin Towers, and I remember sort of getting a group of people who had lost. Um, it was firemen, I think. A group, there'd been a lot of firemen passed, and there was this group of people, wives, mothers, siblings, brothers, so on and so forth, and they'd all come to see if what can I do? Is it possible? Can they come to talk to us? And and there they were, as a crowd coming in from the cornfield, let's say, a crowd of people who had died in the Twin Towers, uh, each one of them giving messages, uh, some of them really detailed, amazingly detailed. Some of them, definitely giving evidence of their survival after death. So when we think about people coming from the spirit world, they don't necessarily come in ones and twos. Sometimes when I'm giving consultations, especially, you get families, and then you get families of families, and then you get friends. Where do they come from? Sort of watch the movie. Just like those baseball players come out of the cornfield, uh, our loved ones in the spirit world, they come from wherever they are in the universe, wherever magical place they are, they come and they visit us, sometimes in ones and twos, but so very often in groups of people with one thing in mind, not necessarily to play baseball, but to talk, to be a part of your families, to be a part of our families again, to be a part of our lives, and to show us that they truly exist. The end. Okay, Chris, how are we doing?
We're doing great. A lot of comments in the chat room today. It's great to see everybody's comments. So,
Okay.
so Gail says, "Thank you so much for your stories." Michael says, "Good morning, Rosemary. Another great story."
Is this
Uh,
our Michael?
it is our Michael,
We've got Michael. We have to get you back.
our
So,
newest bottom bricker.
for those of you who don't know, Michael was one of our bottom brickers recently, the most recent bottom bricker. Michael, you did brilliantly. Oh, brilliantly. And I know that people want to have you back and to see how you're doing, and they want to know what possessed you to do the bottom brick, Michael, and was it worth it? So we have to have Michael back. But if you want to know more about Michael, you can go to our website and see Michael as a bottom bricker. He is part of our group of bottom brickers. If you once you watch, go to the website. We're not going to talk about that this morning, but go to the website, go to bottom brickers. You'll see how it works. You'll see different people doing the bottom brick. If you want to be a bottom bricker, email Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaltea.com.
All right. Judith says, I quote, "saw thousands of angels over the buildings on 9/11. I saw them. They came to usher the souls of the dead and dying into peace."
Nice, very nice.
Tracy says, "I feel a lot of people from the spirit world around me at the moment. Is
Nice.
there any particular reason for this, Rosemary?"
I'm going to sing the Beatles song. Are you ready for this? I'm only going to sing a little bit of it. Love, 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 da da da. All we need is love, la 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 la. And that's why our angels come, because they love us. They want to surround us with love. And do we need a reason to be surrounded with love? Do I need a reason? Did I need a reason this morning when I called to warn my daughter, don't call me, because she always forgets on these shows. She calls me, then we go off, and then I have to go back in again and so on, because she always forgets what time it is. And there is my grandson eating breakfast. Yes, it was late. He was eating breakfast at 11 a.m. this morning, and his breakfast every single morning is, because he loves it, pancakes with chocolate chips in them. Did I need a reason to say, I love you, my darling, even though I was only on very briefly? I love you. No, of course I didn't. My reason is, what is my reason? No, it's just an outpouring of love. And if you're seeing angels or you feel people around you, it's just an outpouring of love. That's all it is. Don't question it. Embrace it. Find joy in it. Chris.
Judith says, "I'm wiping the tears from my eyes as
Oh,
I imagine or see the horror of the men dying, and then wiping away tears for the amazing beauty and peace of the angels."
yes. I remember sitting, not not long after that happened. I remember sitting. I was invited to lunch with she's a very famous uh, Jewish lady who had been part of the Holocaust, and I think she'd read that story and she really wanted to meet me. So my agent at the time arranged that we'd have lunch, and I remember her talking to me about her time in the camps, and she asking me to recount that story to her, and she just was blown away by it, as I was blown away by her, because she was such an inspiration to so many people. But you know, isn't it nice to know that no matter how we pass, no matter what kind of tragedy, no matter how awful it is, our angels are waiting for us. And you know, uh, life is so short. Here we're talking about time again. Just make the most of it, because you never know when your angels are going to come and get you, uh, and take you to this beautiful place. I remember in the movie yesterday, Chris, if you remember, uh, the baseball players, a couple of times they would look at, of course, it wasn't Kevin Costner, it was whoever it was, he was playing, and they said to him, is this heaven? Because they were playing baseball. And like Mike, if Mike is on a baseball field, he would consider it heaven, right, Chris? No matter which
Oh,
baseball,
definitely. Baseball
right?
is joy. Yeah.
And uh, when we were watching the movie, at one point, Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones um, were they went to Utah. Which field was it, Chris? They went to
Oh, Fenway Park.
they there you go. They went to Fenway Park, and Chris, we're watching the movie, and Chris says, "Mike's ashes are right there." Isn't that nice? Anyway, moving on, Chris.
All right. Marlo says, "What a touching story." Karen says, "I truly believe in angels coming to us." Dean says, "I'm enjoying today. Unfortunately, I missed Thursday's show."
Shucks. Well, how are you, darling?
Judith says the Cubs and the Reds are going to play a game there in August, and she means at the Field of Dreams in Iowa
In August?
in August.
Ooh, ooh. I might be in New York, Chris, I'm afraid. Um,
Well, Rosemary, if we go there, you need your own event. You'd fill the stands on your own.
well, I don't know about that, but anyway,
We'll have
let's
to
do
talk
it.
to somebody at Field of Dreams and see if we can put an
Let's
event there.
if anybody knows of anybody, if anybody can help us, if anybody can help us to organize this, come on, let's do it. Wouldn't we have fun? You know, a few years ago, I can remember going to my very first baseball game uh, in Florida, and also, oh gosh, no, sorry, switch that around. My very first um, basketball game with the Magic. Sorry, not baseball, with the Magic, and uh, it was amazing. And of course, you have to understand, right? Well, of course, you don't really. You can't really. Can anybody really understand this? When I go to these games, or if I go to a theatre to watch a play, or if I go to a concert or whatever it is, I'm not going alone. I'm going with Grey Eagle, and things happen. And it's so much fun because as you watch the teams, and everybody's watching the team, and they're either getting the ball, or they're shooting the ball, or whatever it is, uh, and I'm seeing so much more than most other people are seeing, because I can see when Grey Eagle says, "Oh, that needs a bit of a helping hand. That ball needs a little." Yeah, can it happen? Of course it can, and does, especially when I'm around, because we just love having fun with that. Are we cheating? No, we're just having fun and playing around, but it's fantastic to be able to see not just the players on the field, but the players who have come to not just to watch but also to participate from the spirit world. Chris,
So
would that
you're Karen.
would that create a little controversy there? Are people thinking, does that really happen? Can that really happen? Trust me when I say that I've been there, I've seen it, and it does happen. Sorry.
Well, I was
Yeah.
going to say, when you were talking about our let's call it our field trip, our road trip to the Field of Dreams.
Yes.
Karen from Canada, our friend, says, I'm in.
Look, hey Karen, we already included, because we were talking about this morning, Chris and and I said I know that my friend Mary Lou would want to come because she's a big baseball fan, and and Chris said, "Well, let's not forget Karen." I said, "How could we forget Karen?" So we're in. We're going to be doing this at some point. If you can help us, if you know of anyone who connects with the Field of Dreams and would love to have me there, because I'd love to be there. I'm not a big baseball fan, I've got to tell you.
Boo hiss.
I'll sit and read my Kindle while everybody else is watching baseball. It's true, it's true. That's what I will do. But I don't want to interfere or, you know, disappoint people in any way. I will not be bringing my Kindle onto the baseball field because I'll be doing my thing, which is so much more interesting than baseball. Sorry, but there we are.
Oh,
Chris.
it just enhances the game. Mark was saying, if only the many who post relatives in the Holocaust could hear this vision you experienced, it would give them, like us, great peace, that in moments of our passing, we are surrounded by angelic comfort and the sorrow is no more.
I have to say, it was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever been a part of, and wonderful too.
Annika says, I can listen to you tell your stories all day.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Helen is asking, she says, I wouldn't normally ask, but I feel so drawn to ask.
Go ahead.
Does Gray Eagle have a message for me?
Normally, I'm not sure we'd answer, but here is your message from Grey Eagle. I hope you understand this. Dry your tears. There's no need for sorrow. Everything is as it should be. So I don't know if you've been upset about something recently or you're feeling lonely, but from Grey Eagle to you, that's very unusual. Dry your tears. Um, Everything is as it should be.
All right. Annika says, if I didn't live in Connecticut, but in Florida, I would love to have tea with Rosemary sometime.
Well, it's a great place to visit for a holiday, right, Chris?
Absolutely. Michael says, I'm glad to come back to give an update, and I definitely encourage everyone who feels like they need it to become a bottom bricker.
Well, it is a very exclusive club, Michael. But yes, we love our bottom brickers. All of them, Chris.
All right. Judith says, Rosemary, people bet a lot of money on sports games. You don't want to let them know you and Gray Eagle can tweak the plays. Yikes.
Well, um, I would never, ever use my gift to make money in that way, to gamble or what have you. I don't see the point in it. But I don't think I'd be able to use it for that purpose because my gain is to give joy and to inspire and to be inspired. Um, but I do see what you're saying. But it does remind me of a time when I went to Las Vegas and won a huge amount of money, which I never saw a penny of, by the way, having Grey Eagle's help. I'll tell that story maybe uh, another time. But it's an amazing, amazing story. How about that? And there was a reason behind why we won. And it's these movies where you see somebody's on a winning streak and they throw the dice and so on, and then they win and throw the dice again, they win, and slowly the table, you see crowds of people coming around the table, and then all of a sudden, in my case, this was happening, and then in my case, there were a couple of guys, suited guys, who were wondering, and they'd been sent because the dice kept rolling in my favor. They were wondering, is she cheating? They were watching me because they thought I might be cheating. And was I cheating? I wasn't cheating. I wasn't doing anything. I was just rolling the dice. But I was paying attention as well to Grey Eagle. So, anyway, how can you cheat when you roll the dice? How can anyone in the spirit world move those dice so that they're going to land in a certain. Oh, golly, we're getting far off the subject here, Chris. I'll tell that story another time. Chris.
Well, we were talking this morning because one of Mike's and my sons, Calvin, likes to play baseball. And we were talking about the movie Angels in the Outfield and whether or not the Angels could actually come and lift a player up so they gain a few feet to catch a fly ball to center field or not, or how they could help a pitcher or what have you. Did you want to say anything about that?
Okay, it's not just about sports. It's how do our loved ones in the spirit world help us? Can they really find us a parking space? Yes. Uh, can they lift that ball if it's necessary? Yes. Can they help someone with a move? Yes. Can they help with our children? Yes. Um, Recently, my grandson did his music exam, and he was nervous, and I just said to him, "Look, my darling, silly grandpa will be there with you, and I will be there with you in my way. Can we help? Yes. Do we cheat? No. Was there cheating going on with Reese? No. But he had support, and he had, help in the fact that he knew that he had support, and that support was coming from very special places. So it gave him a little bit of confidence. Can the spirit world alter things? Can they change things? They might not necessarily. Sometimes they can, yes. Sometimes, they're just there for support and for help and for guidance. Can they problem solve for us? Can they help us with our problem solving? Absolutely, yes.
Well, that goes back to your Felucca story
Yes.
when you had no wind.
Yes. Boy, oh boy, yes. That was great. That's a good story. I love that story. Yes.
All right, Roxana is on saying, "Oh my, I would be in too, and I am far away in Peru, but I would travel just for the experience, believe me. Right now I am on my 4th day of COVID, battling it, and sure I will win. Still
Of course.
coughing and a bit weak though."
Let me tell you, we're sending you healing. Even as we're speaking to you, look, my energy, can you feel it now? Come on. I'm surrounding you with loving, healing energy. I had COVID in the early days. It was severe. And if I'd have allowed it, they'd have hospitalized me. But there was no way I was going to do that. If I can beat it, my darling, you can beat it. Let's beat it together, shall we?
Judith says, "I love the Egypt stories."
Yes, me too.
And then Luana, who is not speaking English, but I can gather from what she's saying in the chat room, is wondering, do you have a message from her mother?
Not, no, we are, I know we're coming up to time, right, Chris? But I can tell you, Luana, that I'm absolutely sure that your mother is fine, that she's well, she's doing really, really well.
All right, that's all I have for comments right now in the chat room.
Well, it is 12 o'clock. So I think it's a great place to stop. I would like to say thank you to everybody for joining us. We love it. We love having you come join us. We love your comments. We love, love, love when you give us your questions, your comments, and so on. And if you want to know more, you can either go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, or you can email us, Chris, KRIS at rosemaryaltea.com, or just if you can't remember that, just email Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. Chris will answer anyway. So if you want to know more about our books, if you want to know more about our road trips that we're planning, if you want to know more about what we're going to be up to in the next few months, absolutely. Remember that June is we are celebrating Pride. Be proud of yourselves. If you are proud of your children, let them know. If you're proud of your family, let them know. If you don't show it, they don't know it. Just remember that. That's my little phrase. I'd like to say thanks to Chris. You've been fabulous, Chris, as always today. And last but by no means least, thanks to Grey Eagle. We're not quite sure we'll be on again, but until I see you all again, we'll definitely be on next Thursday. And we'll be probably doing an off the cuff or two during the week. Until I see you all again, please, 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 everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the day and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye bye.